play, and that's where that's where we can call with our hands, or excuse me, our tail between our legs.
So you and I saw you. We were in Montgomery, I'm downstairs. I'm trying to check in. A brother behind the counter, black man, Alabama State student, sports marketing major, and he had no idea who I was, and that's fine. I never assume anybody know who I am. I always introduce myself. But as we got to talking, he wasn't even aware, not only the show, he wasn't aware of the march that was happening literally 2 blocks from where he worked. And as I kept talking to him.
Okay, now fellas, feel free to tell me to stop anytime you want to say something, but I do want to have a bit of a moment.
Okay, well, did you tell me about the march? No, but you're supposed to know anyway, right?
You're supposed to know. Yeah. I still think there's a cost difference, though, in terms of what black men experience.
There is, and that's the problem with black men.
You're in and out, Big F.
Yeah, your mic is in and out.
Okay, and one thing is, they think that their lived experience is the same as ours.
Exactly.
Except when they're the victim.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't know what it means to be a woman. Okay.
Well, that and I think they define black oppression based on what they experience, and when black men experience it differently, there's an argument, or they ignore it altogether.
They ignore it altogether. Because they don't want to be bothered with it. It's too heavy.
Here we go.
He kept saying, a lot of students at Alabama State don't know. When I mentioned that I was on the campus last year, he said, man, a lot of times we have no idea who comes on campus. And he was sharing right there how a lot of them are simply not engaged. They don't watch the news. I began to ask him, where do you get your information from? He mentioned TikTok, he mentioned Instagram, go to my iPad. Y'all laid out that YouTube, that first of all, half of young men are active news consumers, just 6% avoid news. But you say that your whole YouTube was a dominant civic information channel. 90% use YouTube at least multiple times a week, and the majority identify YouTube as a place they go for breaking political news. Now, the reason I understand that, because when we talk about black men, if I pull the dashboard right now and look at my analytics, and I click audience, give me 1 second. In the last 28 days of this show, our audience, male, is 57.6%, female is 42.2%. And I know when I get stopped, brothers are stopping me all around the country. Man, I love the show. I love the content. So this idea that they're not news consumers, as your poll lays out, is simply not true.
That's right. And listen, Roland, it was shocking to me that that's where they land for their media, right? That's where they land for their news was YouTube. It was very shocking to me. And I tell you, one of my proudest things, or probably the thing I'm most proud of is being a dad. Being a girl dad at that. And so oftentimes I have these conversations with my girls, where do you get your news from? Where do you get your music from? Where do you find the music? I struggle trying to find the music. And then learning that YouTube really is that outlet. I don't know if it's as much as they're not information taking as we do. I think they're consumed with so much, and that what's important to us is relatively not important to them. And that's why I think the dynamics, when we think about, I heard you talk about the autopsy, but what was important about this research is when we talk about black men and precision, tactical, scientific data and how we reach black men, that's why we had to do this research, because a lot of times we were just assuming that they were getting their news from X, or that they were listening to X platform. And so I'm happy that, happy to work with Terrence Woodbury and his phenomenal team at His Strategies. But more importantly, I thought it was.
Thank you, Roland Martin, for finally admitting the truth.
Hey, let's really, unlock this thing with Scalpel and find out where our brothers are getting that information from. And moreover, the media market, the last persuadable base that's left in this country, which is 18 to 45-year-old black men. Where are they getting the news from? Because we also know they are the biggest consumers of disinformation. So there's a lot of work we got to do, and there was a lot of work in trying to unlock that.
Thanks.
Just for me as executive director to say, hey, let's really, unlock this thing with Scalpel and find out where our brothers are getting that information from. And moreover, the media market, the last persuadable base that's left in this country, which is 18 to 45-year-old black men. Where are they getting the news from? Because we also know they are the biggest consumers of disinformation. So there's a lot of work we got to do, and there was a lot of work in trying to unlock that.
Thanks.
Identified 6 segments of black men.
Go ahead.
We're the biggest consumers of disinformation based on what facts?
The thing is, how do they define disinformation?
Yeah.
Yes. And women think any kind of man wants to turn on the MS Now and watch Simone Sanders talk to him.
Yeah, and the thing is, women listen to TikTok and stuff like that. So, but the thing is, it doesn't apply to them.
For voters voted for someone else, were ineligible to vote or did not vote in 2024, high likelihood of voting in 2026. Then 9% of respondents, Harris voters in 2024. This was sympathetic but uncertain, 50-50 or lower likelihood of voting in 2026. When you saw that, what jumped out at you?
I got to raise more money. I have to raise more money. And the reason why I say that, it is segmented out so much, and we wanted that. To me, what really jumped out to me was there are massive gaps, but there are ways that we can fill the gaps. And one of the things that we know, to be true is this notion of whether they're informed or uninformed. I think the message that resounds the most, and this even goes from the town halls that we were doing in 2025, is that Black men, younger Black men in particular, feel that folks are just talking at them. And they're not giving them a reason not to vote. When you look at the Trump voter or the young Trump voter, it wasn't surprising to me. As you know, Roland.
Did one of you guys ask me to stop it?
No, I'm sorry, for good reason.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was part of the Harris campaign. And so, when we saw this late invitation, we saw this late surge of, Black men may go this way or they may go this way or that way. But it wasn't surprising for me to see that they voted for Trump, because to them, what they see in Trump is economic prosperity. And they don't see that. What they see in the Democratic Party is living in the land of about to do. We'll almost get there. It takes time. And for them, when they're looking at their pockets, particularly now, and that's why I think we're going to see this, we'll continue to see the shift, back to, because we know them to be center left. We'll continue to see the shift for them moving over. But what we know is that what is going to matter most is the economic message. And so clearly the economic message from Trump resonated more than it did from the Harris campaign.
But here's what's interesting, and this is, I think, part of the Democrats' problem. Trump was lying about economics. The reality is numbers don't lie. The last 5 Republican presidents put us in a recession.
Absolutely right.
There's been more job growth in America under Democratic presidents, Carter, Clinton, Obama, Biden, than Republican presidents. I mean, the numbers are stark. But Republicans have successfully created the illusion that they are fantastic for the economy. And I think that's because what Republicans do, they tout tax cuts for corporations and businesses as economic progress, when we know that only impacts the top 1%. And so what I've always said, what Democrats got to figure out is, how in the hell do you lose an economic argument when the data is actually with you? And so also I believe, and I've been saying this for the longest, and we discussed it earlier with this autopsy report with Ashley, and that is this here. You cannot talk to Black people in the final 2 months.
That's right.
And I got no problem saying this. In November 2023, when Vice President Kamala Harris hosted a dinner with Black men, it was an off-the-record dinner. What I said, and I've said this publicly, so that might be the first time I'm saying this. I said then, y'all must start in January. And how I broke up the year, I said January to July must be engage, enlighten, educate, and inform. I said in every one of these battleground states, in every single city, every single week, there has to be civic education discussions, teachings.
Now, this is interesting, as well as his overview of his perception of what's taken place since Obama. He has some interesting points, but it also sounds to me like he's really selling himself for a position. Mm-hmm. It sounds like this entire discussion is really about marketing himself for the next job.
Yeah.
Which makes it difficult for me to hear at times. But any platforms, and it's a relevant question to ask. Why are you not doing that?
Are you not doing it? Yeah.
How much of your budget does it take to get on Zoom?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right, here we go.
Whatever, walking people through what you did, what you accomplished, and then what you want to do.
Exactly.
I said, and you got to be making that investment. I said January to July. Your convention is in August, and then you shift to a different strategy. I've said that to her. I've said it to people running for Senate, people running for Congress, people running for local. I said, because we're no longer, and then the autopsy today confirms that you have to be, what Republicans are doing, they are engaging their people year round, constantly driving information, where Democrats, election's over, I'll see you in a year and a half, that ain't gonna cut it.
Pretty much, yeah.
So I couldn't agree with you more, and I think that is, I've been doing this, and don't let the curly hair fool you, and let's pay attention to the grades. I've been doing this for almost 20 years, and I've said this repeatedly ad nauseum, going all the way back since 2009 when I was on the when I was an organizer with the Corzine Weinberg campaign. Late invitations are for fools, and that's a word that Johanna Hayes has said all the time. Late invitations are for fools, and we only entertain from September to November. And whether it's a national campaign or statewide, and then they go back out, do whatever, raise a bunch of money, do a lot of events for politicians, and they forget actually the people who got them elected. That's the problem. And you look at organizations like ourselves, and there's so many others that are doing great work. And what we hear from a lot of times from donors is there'll be late money and money is coming. Now, that's the problem. So how are we supposed to engage? You look at this report and you say, well, Mike, tactically, how are you going to engage them? Well, part of the reason why we did this report was to prove that all your substance, all your engagement is what is going to win elections. If I only entertain my wife or my partner only 3 months out of the year, is she going to talk to me? Is she going to be engaged with me? No, absolutely not. It's the same thing about courting voters. And I don't know why we think this is just a quick fix, or just, as some folks would just call it, a quick marriage or a kiss in the middle of the night. This is dating. This is long-term engagement. And it's something that we refuse to do as a party. And I don't get it. It's very disturbing. And then we just live in the land of...
It's not hard to understand, Mike. It's not hard to understand. I'm telling you. See, we got to be honest, and there's some black people watching, and y'all need to go ahead and get out of y'all feelings what I'm about to say. And this is what people
Stop capping, bro. You suck.
have to understand, okay? The strategy since 1965. The strategy from 65 to 2008 was the same, pretty much the same. No, I'll say 65 to 1988, the strategy was the same. And that strategy was black churches talk to black groups like NAACP. We're going to speak to social programs. We're going to speak to the needs of black community. We're going to speak to housing. We're going to speak to food. We're going to speak to healthcare, those things like that. And then what happens? Reverend Jackson wins in 1988. He then says, no, you have to actually campaign a different way. So from 88, 2008, that was a strategy. Then Obama comes along. This is where things change. Obama says, I don't need that black ecosystem. He literally said it. His campaign literally said it. Now, he was correct. He was correct. Because the fervor of black people, the vote for the first black president, was on a different scale. We showed the data in terms of the turnout data, and it's right here. It's right there. You see it right there where it peaked. The blue line is black people. You see right there where it peaked. That's 08, 2012. It's never been higher. Since 1980, it peaked right there. It got close in 2000.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, I actually agree with Roland on this one. I think part of the problem the Democrats have right now is these candidates coming up are not Obama.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I actually agree with Roland. Let's just face it, Obama.
Yes, I agree with him also. Obama was like him. He still is like him. He's charismatic, energetic. Then his Harris was just not like the one. Come off as very smart. Check out her book. She got a great book. And the book also it rates a lot of these points too. You can get it on Amazon. Kamala Harris book. Blue. It's like $20. And also it rates these same points also.
Black and by American standards, and he was just more popular with black people. But
he was more popular with people, period.
well, that pure people, it's true, people, period. I can tell you, as somebody that lives in Indiana, a well-known Republican state, when I went to his rallies, the white people were more excited than we were.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And quiet as his kept, he won Indiana in 2008.
Okay.
And Indiana's a red state. Indiana hadn't went blue in like 40 years at the time.
Okay. Yes, sir.
20, but it peaked in those years. So what then happened? Obama runs for 2012. He didn't need the ecosystem. I was saying in 2007 and 8 when he was running, say, bro, y'all, he only gonna be that max 8 years. You're gonna need the ecosystem. The reality is the black turnout strategy was obliterated when Obama ran for president. The white operatives operated after 2012, 2016. They operated as if he was still running.
Yes.
That's right.
That's what happened. And here's why it's in the data. There was an 8-point gap between black women and black men for Obama. Y'all, he only gonna be there max 8 years. You're gonna need the ecosystem. The reality is the black turnout strategy was obliterated when Obama ran for president. The white operatives operated after 2012, 2016. They operated as if he was still running.
Yes.
That's right.
That's what happened. And here's why it's in the data. There was an 8-point gap between black women and black men for Obama in 2012. The first sign of black male erosion was in 2012. I discussed it on my show that I said, y'all, black men said they were not satisfied with what Obama did in the first 4 years. But because the number was still high 80s, folks were like, oh, it's no big deal. It increased in 16. People, a lot of sisters were like, oh, it's misogyny. I said, misogyny is a part of it. It doesn't fully explain the erosion. The erosion.
All right. BGS, you have some thoughts on that?
Yeah. They basically, what is it? Always. The thing is, they assumed that people voted for Obama because he was black, and they assumed that black women women can throw out a candidate and we're going to vote for her is because she's black. Her being qualified, okay? Obama transcended that. In other words, they think, oh, we're just going to follow this pattern. You can't because you're not him. And
Yes.
Roland is 100% right. Okay, you're not Obama.
Yes.
And Roland said you cannot use what Obama used because you're not him.
Exactly.
So you have to change your strategy. And basically, Abrams and a whole host of other people found that out. Okay,
Yes.
exactly. Go ahead.
Well, as far as the his misogyny comment, I have no trouble saying this to any black woman. Kamala Harris wasn't qualified or fit, and I know y'all can do better.
And Hillary Clinton got what? She won the popular vote in 2016. So again,
Hillary Clinton actually won more black vote than Kamala Harris did.
yes.
That's something a lot of people don't want to talk about.
So it can't be misogyny. It can't be hatred of women because black men did vote for Hillary Clinton.
And that's one of the ongoing stereotypes, one that Obama himself reinforced just before the last presidential election. This whole idea that black men hate women so much that you have to shame them into voting. But if you look at the last few presidential elections, black men are the most progressive male voters across race.
Yes. Which is what
We don't want to talk about.
So it can't be misogyny. It can't be hatred of women because black men did vote for Hillary Clinton.
That's one of the ongoing stereotypes, one that Obama himself reinforced just before the last presidential election. This whole idea that black men hate women so much that you have to shame them into voting. But if you look at the last few presidential elections, black men are the most progressive male voters across race.
Yes. Which is what Joy Reid and a whole host of others actually admitted after the election.
But they should have been able to admit it before if you looked at the data.
Oh yeah, well just like a black woman's gonna act right before you leave her.
Well, Dr. T, I have nothing to hide. I voted for a black woman in the last election, 2024. She lost, but we had a black woman running for Senate. She came to my church. And despite the fact I was a little, irritated that a politician up in the pulpit, she was actually an improvement over what they've been running. So I was like,
but black men as voters have always been telling women exactly, exactly what their concerns are. And guess what they do? They blow them off.
yes.
And that's the problem. Stacey Abrams found that out in 2022. She found that out. She ran, okay, she found out, I really have to engage these people.
I have to engage them, right?
Yeah.
Because she met with a room full of black men, and they had their own political issues, and that's one of the things that I'm surprised about sometimes in the black community. So many people are shocked that black men have their own political issues, and I'll even have brothers tell me, the black community has the same focus, and I said, look, sit down with the women in your family, your friend network, whatever it is, sit down with them and see how far you can get into the black male political agenda.
Exactly.
Just go point for point, see how far you can get.
Exactly.
They don't even get past the first one before they're getting yelled at.
Exactly. But that's why the Ice Cube effect was so effective, right? It's because they blatantly told you
Yes.
that black men and women don't have the same political outlook. They don't.
Yeah.
They blatantly told you, what are you going to give us? Okay, they had nerve to ask, okay, for what's in it for us? Okay, but black men are not allowed to say that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when he starts talking about the collapse of the black male voter pool during this time period, he looks at it as the failure of black men. I don't. I look at it as the maturation of black men starting to identify their own political needs. And what better time for that to happen than under a black president who doesn't prioritize their interests, and if anything, speaks down to them like children.
The thing is, his analysis is saying something completely different than his finger wagging. Because his whole analysis of how you engage black men, yada yada yada, has been on point. But thing is, to keep his black female audience, they have to engage in a finger wagging.
Well, not only to keep them, but to market himself as a political consultant, because that sounds to me like what he's doing.
Well, yeah. Well, if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy as far as the Democratic Party and the black community, right?
It sounds to me like he's saying, look, hire me to be a consultant, and I will prioritize black women, which will guarantee their participation, and I will shame black men into voting in your interest.
Well, yeah, but that doesn't work, and that's what Obama found.
No, it does not. You're absolutely right.
Okay. But Obama had his arm twisted, actually, because he didn't believe in Kamala Harris, okay? He had his arm to go out and say what he said. That's like it wasn't convincing. Okay?
Yeah, most people wanted a primary like Obama, so.
Yeah, Obama could get us to do it. There's not a black house.
He did. That's what I'm talking about. In other words, his analysis is saying something completely different than his finger wagging.
Yeah, well, yeah, for the moment.
What I'm saying, it's,
No, I'm just saying we're gonna see if he switches.
No, he's gonna switch, man.
He's gonna switch.
Hey, Dr. Umar switches all the time. Okay, so that's the tactic. Come on, Doc.
He's gonna switch. Yeah.
Hey, Doc, come on, man. How many conferences have you gone to where the analysis is on point? But at the end of the day, to keep the constituent, you got to finger wag, right?
Well, the shorthand of that is whenever you're saying something that might make black women uncomfortable.
Yes, you got to clean it up.
You can get close to the line.
Yeah.
You got to switch.
You got to switch. You got to clean it up. Okay. At the end of the day, it's still their fault, right?
I'm not saying I like these niggas, but maybe y'all could think about things a little different and include them more. But that's still horrible.
If you want a different result, well, I know they misogynist and they love that.
It's always men's fault. My BTS voice. It's always men's fault.
Right. And they're knuckle draggers, but you want their vote, right? So you're gonna have to do certain things, right? I know it ain't right, but it is what it is, right?
Which is part of the issue. Part of the reason why they won't talk about misandry. See, they're not gonna look at it as anything larger than misogyny or anything of that nature. Misogyny is okay to include in this because it buys women in, but they're not going to talk about misandry in terms of the treatment of men and black men in particular. They won't go there, because that's going to piss off their female base. But anyway, all right, that's all.
Roland, you said to the brother in the hotel lobby, you asked him, what is the biggest professional market? And he said MLB, and then you had to school him and let him know it was the NFL.
Yeah, because the brother was a sports marketing major, and I was like, bro, you might need to know your business.